What's something cool you recently learned about? New fish pop up in ponds because ducks eat fish eggs from other ones and excrete them whole in another water body. Edit. Source https www.smithsonianmag.com. Smart news. Special delivery duck ***** may transport fish eggs. New waters 1-809-75230. WTH, this is amazing. I would have never thought fish eggs could survive stomach acids. Life finds a way. On December 21, 2020, Jupiter and Saturn will align such that you can see them together in the same telescope, and even with a naked eye. It's called the Great Conjunction of the spheres. The fact that there are intergalactic rogue planets that roam around the space that's in between galaxies. Well, I knew there were rogue planets away from stars, but never thought about rogue planets being flung out of remote galaxy arms. That is so cool. Imagine if there was some mole-people species inside one of those extragalactic planets that live off of geothermal energy from the still living core. I can only imagine what kind of hypothesis or mythology they might have about what it would like to live inside a galaxy or live relatively close to a star. Really gets the imagination going. Edit. A word. The Native Americans of the Great Plains developed a form of sign language that allowed them to trade and communicate across language barriers. It's called, and it was used by a variety of tribal nations spanning an area from Canada to northern Mexico. I have a master's degree in Great Plains archaeology, and I've literally never heard of this. I feel betrayed. To be fair, it's not the kind of thing you would be able to trace. Not much evidence for an archaeologist. The origin of the word happiness is from the Middle English hap, which has to do with chance and possibility, as in happenstance, or perhaps. So happiness was originally about the feeling of good fortune, getting lucky, the chance that something could or could not occur, and then it goes your way. Happiness is that specific feeling when something that could have gone horribly wrong goes amazing. Well, somewhat relatedly, weird is the old Anglo-Saxon word for fate. Weird sisters as the fates makes total sense. Wombats and some other Australian animals have biofluorescent fur. Don't wombats also beep cubes? Yeah, I think it's to stop the beep rolling and keep it in a specific spot. No one who was born blind has ever gone on to develop schizophrenia. Researchers are investigating how congenital blindness may protect people from developing the condition. Interesting. It really is. There was an earlier post asking if deaf people with schizophrenia experienced audio hallucinations. Googling led to some really interesting articles. The average color of the universe is #FFF87 and is called cosmic latte. However, this was only after the calculations were corrected, and before the correction it was believed to be a minty turquoise green. Beep. Edit. Beep. Who would have thought people would be so polarized on the color of the universe? Anyways, for whoever is interested, it was octarine, the color of magic. It was alive and glowing and vibrant, and it was the undisputed pigment of the imagination, because wherever it appeared it was a sign that mirror matter was a servant of the powers of the magical mind. It was enchantment itself. But Rincewind always thought it looked a sort of greenish purple. The Color of Magic by Sir Terry Pratchett. Museums are struggling to keep the appropriate humidity levels for their collections because of the lack of foot traffic and people breathing in the buildings due to COVID. They'd be the perfect location for the next anti-mask protest. Compared to Earth, there is a huge ratio of heavy water in comets and other bodies in the outer solar system. Like, a lot of heavy water. Heavy, man. Although, seriously, heavy water makes nuclear energy cheaper to produce. Yeah, but harvesting it from the outer solar system wouldn't be cheap, haha. The shower water on Alcatraz was intentionally kept very hot. This is so prisoners wouldn't get used to cold water and be able to swim to shore if they escaped. Is cold water resistance something that can be built up? Your fat cells change over time, depending on if you're constantly in a cold or hot climate. Other factors determine the shape and distribution of your fat cells, but climate conditions is one of them. It's not just mental, we can physically adapt to the cold. Weather conditions different types of fat effects of physical activity. Sumo wrestling, for example pasted from the Sumo link. Sumo wrestlers eat up to 7,000 calories a day and weigh 300 to 400 pounds, or 2 to 3 times as much as the average adult. While that may not sound like the healthiest lifestyle, you shouldn't judge a book, or a body, by its cover. Take a closer look, and you'll discover that it really is what's on the inside that counts. Normally, people with obesity store a portion of their extra fat deep inside the abdomen, where it wraps around the pancreas, liver, and other vital organs. We call this visceral fat. It pollutes the blood with molecules that can cause inflammation, and this is why obesity can lead to health issues like high blood pressure, type 2 diabetes, and heart attacks. But sumo wrestlers don't usually suffer from these symptoms. So what's their trick? CT scans reveal that sumo wrestlers don't have much visceral fat at all. Instead, they store most of their fat right underneath the skin. That's why scientists think sumo wrestlers are healthy. They have normal levels of triglycerides, a type of fat, in their blood, and unexpectedly low levels of cholesterol, both of which lower their risk of heart disease, heart attack, and stroke. So how did they hit the jackpot on fat? The secret's in their name, sumo wrestler. Studies show that intense exercise may prevent the buildup of visceral fat. Basically, it has to do with how exercise increases a hormone called adiponectin. Adiponectin guides glucose and fat molecules out of our bloodstream, where they could build up as visceral fat, and instead puts them underneath the skin. Mind you, sumo wrestlers get a lot of exercise. At a sumo stable, or haya, in Japan, training starts as early as 5 a.m. and can last for up to 5 hours straight, and it's nothing like what you'd expect to find at your typical group fitness class. For example, during an exercise called Butsukari Gaiko, wrestlers take turns repeatedly hitting and pushing each other until they collapse to the floor from exhaustion. And then, of course, there's the match, where wrestlers try to shove their opponent out of the ring or force them to touch the ground with any body part other than the soles of their feet. But as soon as the exercise stops, so does its benefits. When sumo wrestlers retire, they have to seriously cut calories or they become at risk for cardiovascular disease. That might explain why retired wrestlers reportedly die an estimated 10 years younger than the average Japanese citizen. So while the thought of eating 7,000 calories a day might be appealing, you probably shouldn't. Unless you're spending most of your day trying to topple a 400-pound man. I've also been studying one sumo wrestler pretty closely lately. Here are some clips from a documentary about him. Edit. Thanks for the rewards. While this is getting a little bit of attention, I think two people you guys might like to get to know and give some attention to are Jason Becker and Paul Vo. One of them is the world's greatest guitar player ever who was stricken with ALS at a young age, and the other is a genius inventor who created the Moog guitar and other amazing musical inventions. Jason is still making music to this day. And I want Paul Vo to make more sick stuff. So if you got a chance, check these dudes out. Rodents can't vomit. This is exactly why rat poison works. They can't vomit up the poison. I learned that from an episode of Scream Queens LOL. Triscuit is short for electricity biscuit, and it was the first cracker ever made with electricity. Oh, I always just thought it was because they were the sequel to the biscuit. Same. I always just assumed the monoscit was a legendary consumable found in some ancient ruin. Female seagulls are a different color than males. Only seagulls can see the color difference. This is probably a dumb question, but if only seagulls can tell the difference, how was it discovered that they have a different color? I know birds have extra rods and cones in their eyes that allow them to see colors beyond our range. A lot of birds can see ultraviolet light, so if you shine a black light on them you should be able to see the difference. A lot of plain birds look crazy under black light. The vets can transplant feathers to birds and will harvest flight and tail feathers from bird who didn't make it and donate to another bird in need, like an organ donor. Edit. Whoa, went to bed and this blew up. Thank you kind strangers for the votes and awards. Also thank you to all the bird friends for all the extra info and comments. I learned even more about this process called imping, and is a centuries-old technique. In the UAE where I live, they take falconry very seriously. They have falcon hospitals with feathered libraries. Anytime a prize falcon dies prematurely, they harvest the most important feathers and store them to be used to replace missing feathers on living ones that get injured. How long does a saved feather remain viable for transplant? Squirrels can acquire terminal velocity while plummeting to the ground and survive 80% of the time. Terminal velocity of a human equals 120 miles per hour. Terminal velocity of a squirrel equals 31 miles per hour. Not slow, but not squishifyingly fast either. For the last 50-plus years, every submarine and aircraft carrier built by the U.S. Navy has been powered by nuclear reactors. What's more, the aircraft carriers have a 50-year service life and only need to be refueled one time. There has also never been a nuclear-related accident on board these ships. Carriers are wild. During natural disasters, they'll even pull up offshore and plug in a power cable to act as a power plant for large portions of a country. Dang, we've had colossal power banks in the ocean this whole time. On Thanksgiving, my adult children and I watched Ice Age again. We noticed that Sid the Sloth has a tail. We looked it up and, yes, ancient sloths did have tails and sometimes grew to the size of modern elephants. You know how human blood shed their nuclei so that they can carry more oxygen? Well, bird blood keeps their nuclei so their blood can replicate itself as it travels across the body. Their blood self-duplicates. Human blood comes from our bone marrow, but by having their blood replicate, bird bones can be lighter so the birds can fly with less effort. Otters have tiny skin pockets to collect their favorite stones. Humans just have a booty pocket for similar shenanigans. The Earth is slowly decelerating, 17 milliseconds slower per 100 years. In 140 million years, the time in a day will be increased to 25 hours. Oh cool, that will be right before I get my Xbox Series X. Just about a day before Cyberpunk comes out. My new favorite vocabulary word is basically, phenology is the study of the rhythms of nature. Observing the changes in the trees and plants and animal life as the seasons progress. While it has scientific value in studying things like climate change, it has also been proven to be wonderfully therapeutic for many people during this past year, when we have all been quarantined inside and each month drearily bleeds into the next. Focusing on the sky and the trees and the birds.